So we have two choices. I can do a very polished commercial presentation, or I also have slides for the Ethereum 2.0 Road Map, which I can do a bad job of presenting. Does the audience have a preference? All right, then we're going to go with the slides that are up here, and I can take questions on the Ethereum roadmap in the future. As we just heard, we live in an era of rapid acceleration and changing times, right? Where we are seeing real transformations in how people work, are remunerated, how value is created, how value is shared, right? And it's not slowing down. If anything, it's speeding up, in large part because of technologies. How many people in this room have actually heard the definition of exponential technology? Okay, so exponential technology is usually poorly defined. The real definition of exponential technology is when you have multiple technologies, each that have very high growth rates, having a multiplicative effect on each other. Okay, so mobile and social acted together. Facebook was growing really quickly. It started growing a lot faster with the proliferation of the iPhone. The impact of having this device that was permanently connected, where you could have a great user experience, combined with the features they were building on the web, meant that their growth exponentially accelerated when they released a mobile app, right? And so exponential technology is where multiple technologies converge, and therefore the growth rates and the accelerations become multiplicative, right? And that is the actual definition of exponential technologies, just for what it's worth, right? We also live in an era of broken trust. Fundamentally, every single day we see increasing evidence of this effect, right? I mean, just minutes ago, we're seeing ministers resigning from the UK government over Brexit. You know, Volkswagen to Deutsche Bank to Facebook, you name it. Trust is fundamentally broken in our society, and in part, it's been broken by technology. It's been broken because these exponential technologies and the network effects they create have led to walled gardens where data and users can be exploited for commercial gain. These are not millennial issues, right? These are issues that affect the share prices of the largest companies in the world. These are issues that are going to drive who becomes the next Google, who becomes the next Facebook, right? These customers, employees, subjects, citizens are demanding change with incredible voice, right? They're asking for something better, for a system that's fairer, that's more transparent, that is open, that corresponds to their values and not purely to profiteering, right? But these are not just millennial issues or news clips. These are issues that CEOs and boards need to take seriously, or else they will see their share prices destroyed. So imagine a world in which value is exchanged not only freely, but fairly, with guaranteed authenticity, with peer-to-peer exchange, with digitally native assets, and the business models that can unlock. The business models where you control your data, not a large social media conglomerator, where you can choose how much you get paid for your data, rather than all of those profits going into a small group of people's hands, right? And this is the future that we believe that can be developed as decentralization, right? And we believe that the economic benefits of this are massive. And these benefits come through in three buckets. One is the operational efficiencies of having distributed ledger technology and smart digital assets that simply take out a lot of the intermediation of the value exchange networks we operate today. The second is what we call unlocking frozen capital. A great example of this are some areas in Africa, right? We're working on a project right now in West Africa where the sponsor of the project says this: Africa isn't poor, Africa is illiquid, right? There are large pieces of very, very valuable land in Africa that simply cannot be developed due to a lack of title and a lack of funding, right? And so as a result, we're not getting that recirculation of the money supply and the growth of the economy. So this notion of poverty and wealth changes when we're able to unlock frozen capital, right? And that leads to the third point, which is inclusion, right? We're able to build these networks that are global in scale with low barriers to entry, where people can access a global payments network without being a correspondent bank on the SWIFT network. They just need to download a little bit of software and operate it. And so new business models are being created out of this. Just that like mobile and peer-to-peer brought us new businesses like Uber, this model towards decentralization is enabling marketplaces for journalism, digital art, right? New models for trading real estate in 24/7 environments. So I work for a company called ConsenSyS, and our vision is to build the next generation social, political, economic operating system for the planet and beyond. And by beyond, I mean some of you may have seen that we recently acquired Planetary Resources, an asteroid mining company. So when we say beyond, we really mean beyond. And we believe in a technology called Aetherium, which is rapidly becoming the de facto standard for digital asset creation and transfer, right? Ethereum operates what we call the global world computer, which within it has a single digital ledger that anyone in the world can see, along with smart contract infrastructure that automates the process of building digital assets and distributed applications. And the volumes of transactions on this network, especially if you look at the transactions of digital assets that are built on Ethereum but may be priced on a more traditional order book, is in the volumes of tens of billions of dollars of real world commerce a day, right? Tens of billions of dollars of Ethereum-based instruments are traded every single day. And I'm sorry, the charts got a little bit screwed up moving this from Google Slides into PowerPoint. And we estimate that the Ethereum community is approaching or exceeding 1 million developers around the world. So there's a tremendous number of people all collaborating either on the low-level protocol technology or building applications on top of it. And so our model at ConsenSyS is to catalyze the ecosystem. And we sort of have this theory, as one of my colleagues said, build things to inspire people to build things. So every time we support a project, our intent is more users will enter the ecosystem, which expands the ecosystem, which increases the addressable market for individuals who build on Ethereum. So we see this virtuous cycle of venture creation and ecosystem development, where the more things we build expands the ecosystem, which increases the opportunity for building more things, right? And we do this for everybody. We work with corporates, we work with entrepreneurs, we work with investors, we work with governments and government agencies. We spend a lot of time focused on the developer community, and we really see this to be serving the planet. That the systems that we have in place have created massive inequalities, huge intermediation, monopolistic and oligopolistic industries that exclude 2 to 3 billion people, and this is not okay. So you can think of ConsenSyS as a blockchain innovation partner, co-creator as a service. We predominantly work either with teams and individuals who want to build blockchain startups, what we call spokes, or increasingly what we found is large companies and incumbents have recognized that their relationship with their customers and their relationship with data is transforming, right? And need to become more open and build these more open networks and increasingly reach out to us to use our capabilities to build these fairer, more open and inclusive systems. And some examples of these, for example, we're working with the World Wildlife Fund based out of Fiji, working on a food sustainability project, tracing tuna from the point it's caught on the boat through to where it's served on the plate. So imagine you're in the store, you pick up a box of tuna fish, on it is a QR code, you scan with your phone, and you can see the entire supply chain of that, right? And so that's actually in operations. Or Project I2I with Union Bank in the Philippines, where there's this problem in an archipelago, if you think about the Philippines and where people live in the rural areas, you'll have these families and businesses that are spread out across multiple islands, and a large portion of the economy is still cash-based. And so there's this big lag between me having cash for my goods and commerce, going to a bank, getting the bank to reconcile that onto its ledger, transferring it to a bank on a neighboring island, and my counterparty receiving the cash, right? And that's because because of the huge delay in network communications and the need to go back to a single centralized reconciliation point. So we've built a decentralized reconciliation system that works in these remote areas that has radically accelerated the payments. Project Coca, again, apologies for the slides getting cut off, is an initiative that we ran with the South African Reserve Bank to rebuild a real-time gross settlement system on the Ethereum blockchain. Right, so we proved that we were able to operate into the tens of thousands of transactions, fully implementing real-time gross settlement. Now, the advantage of doing this is not just that you get better IT infrastructure within a central bank, is you now have a totally different infrastructure for regional banking. Right, because the ability to onboard new banks and to extend central banking access into smaller either non-bank financial institutions or into peer-to-peer banking services suddenly becomes possible because you're not saddled by this unprogrammable mainframe. Or Project Congo, where we are building an open network for commodity trade finance with 15 of the largest institutions in that space. Commodity trade finance is a $4.1 trillion per year industry, right? If you look at the fuel that goes into a car throughout the supply chain, all of that money is all of that fuel as it goes out of the ground to the pump is funded by a series of letters of credit that are initially issued by banks and the originator of the goods, the extractor, but ultimately are traded through a complex networks of counterparties. This is a very slow and opaque industry today. In fact, some of it is still driven by paper, let alone being integrated across database systems that we're creating into a digital asset network. Or Rocket Lawyer. Rocket Lawyer was already, this is a great example of exponential technology, two technologies coming together. Rocket Lawyer was already disrupting the legal industry by automating the process of standard legal agreements like wills or employment contracts. By working with us, we are now putting those contracts into smart contract form on the Ethereum blockchain. And ultimately, we believe this will disrupt every industry. This issue around how technology has driven wall-gardened, monopolistic behavior, we think is prevalent in pretty much every industry. And the opportunity to build these transparent, automated, open platforms will ultimately permeate, we believe, every industry and every aspect of a society. And we believe that this actually will create radical abundance. It will create a world in which the economic loss and the economic drag is shared between the many instead of harvested by the few. So we believe that the impact of these exponential technologies is huge consumer surplus, and that we will not be in a place where we have antagonisms of haves and haves not, but a far more equal and abundant world. So we see a very, very optimistic future for this technology, and one in which value is shared, where greater value is created and shared more evenly across society. So thank you very much. I guess we probably have some time for some questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Jimmy? Anyone? So I have a question.
Sure.
Since you told us that you have something about the roadmap of Ethereum. Mm-hmm. Many discussions have been going on about the ring signatures and privacy. Are you dealing with any of the quantum-resistant mechanism for Ethereum?
So the thing in Ethereum is switching out the elliptic curves is relatively straightforward. And so we think that there's a debate in the Ethereum community around how much quantum resistance to engineer into Ethereum 2.0. I think many in our organization, though we don't have a single position on this, believe that quantum resistance is a lower priority than various other aspects of the network. And because of the architecture of Ethereum and how elliptic curve cryptography works, it's very easy to switch the curves if needed. So depending on who you talk to, different people we think it's of different priority. I personally think it's not a priority for Ethereum 2.0.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions for Jeremy? Okay, thank you very much.